I know I'm not alone in this. I've played Minecraft 1,000 times and it always kinda goes the same. You get materials, find a place to live, fight the dragon, but then you ask yourself the same question. What do I do now? But imagine a version of Minecraft with almost endless areas to explore, new structures, crazy bosses, and whatever that is. This is Better Minecraft, and like the name implies, it's Minecraft, but better. I'm going to take 100 days to find as many new biomes and dimensions as I can, battle new mobs I've never seen before, and of course, get materials, find a place to live, and kill the dragon, but with some twists. I cannot wait to show you how crazy it gets. But first, this video took me over 100 hours to make, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so I can keep on making videos just like this. Now let's get started as I play my way through 100 days of Better Minecraft. After coming up with a super creative and original name, we created Tan's World and loaded in for our first official day, which was technically day 0. My PC struggled for a hot minute, but once I loaded in, I had spawned in a birch-style forest and was really excited to look around. I was given a quest book in my inventory, so I skimmed through that and it rewarded me with 3 pieces of bread. There was also this huge dojo-looking thing in front of me, which I obviously couldn't avoid, so I headed right for it. Now there is a ton of new animals and mobs that I am completely unaware of, so when I watched back this footage and saw I caught the attention of a snake, it made me a little uneasy. After I got closer to the dojo, I was greeted by this super welcoming baby zombie villager, and I have no idea what its parents are feeding it because my god was this thing strong. I had no weapons and armor, and it only took 2 taps of its iron hoe to get me down to 1 heart. Stop chasing me! Stop chasing me! Stop chasing me! So that was a depressing run. Good thing it isn't hardcore. Very embarrassed to say that I died literally within the first 5 minutes of starting this world. This might be a tad more challenging than I originally thought. I respawned and needed to get better prepared, so I figured that punching some trees and grabbing wood was a super Minecrafty thing to do. So I did that and left some floating trees along the way, but don't worry, that won't last long. There is an insane amount of craftable items, but I got the necessities and went on to grab some stone. I wanted to go straight back and see if I had dropped anything when I died, but first I was approached by a bigger zombie villager, and this dude also had like a speed 27 boost for some reason. I got out of there real quick, but it caught up and I almost died again. And it was here where I got my very first mob kill of the game. These dudes really care about their crops because on the way back to my body I was bombarded by another 3 villagers. I took them out, then headed over to their crops to aggressively destroy them as it felt like the right thing to do. Also, I was hungry. I made some bread, chomped on that before clicking on my gravestone. When I did, it actually disappeared and gave me the loot that I had on me when I died. This was super vital as, spoiler alert, that wouldn't be my first and only death. It was already getting dark, so I needed to find a safe spot and potentially get a bed. I was chased by more zombie villagers who are literally so obsessed with me. This time I kept on running and was too afraid to look back. Just through this flower forest, I spotted a village which hopefully would be a safe haven. In this mod pack though, I have no idea what to expect. I kept running and oh, for the love of... This is just getting ridiculous now. I finally made it inside of this house, and this is what would bring me to the end of a very hectic day 0. I woke up on day 1, looked out my window and saw that the villagers were doing me a solid and taking care of the remaining hostile mobs. This was actually a super pretty village located in a flower forest. After looking around, I came across a waystone, which I was thrilled about because these allow you to teleport if you find another one. They are really handy for getting around and it's gonna make life much easier. I once more went with something super creative and named it First Village. I located their bell and borrowed it, which I will do for every village I find. I'm curious to see how many bells we end up with by the end of the 100 days. If you want to take a guess at how many bells we find, make sure you leave a comment below now and let me know what you think. After looting the village and taking all their valuables, I came across this bounty board, which was actually pretty cool. I guess if you kill these mobs you get rewards. I wasn't fully ready to risk my life yet though. I collected some more wood and sadly won't be able to leave any more floating trees. I think if you use an axe on one piece, it chops down the whole thing, which will be efficient because wood is an annoying thing to get. My inventory was filling up quick, so I moved into this small house and started dumping everything out that I did not need. I also finished the last quest in my book, which gave me a charm of life. I had no idea what it did, but I equipped it and it was actually super cute. I hoped I would never lose it. Now that I was set up in my new house, I was ready for a new day. Tyoma Zortman the cleric decided to have a sleepover but didn't want to trade me anything good, which was a scam. So I left to go check out the structures that were up on the mountain. I found my first piece of coal and also made some new friends. The pillagers started shooting me though, and you know that charm of life necklace that I wanted to keep forever? I guess it acted as a totem because it exploded and then disappeared. Well, that lasted a good 3 minutes. I ran down the hill to find another weird tower structure that had a spawner in it. I obviously didn't want any other mobs spawning, so I destroyed it as fast as I could. I killed a pillager who dropped silver, however, I'm not sure what you make with it though. I also found this weird thing, and I didn't know what it was, so I killed it, and it didn't drop anything. I was really curious to see what was inside of the dojo, so I went down the side and mined through. Just me and all my god armor and weapons ready to take on this place. Okay, so I had literally nothing, but I was hoping that I could find some good loot inside, as long as I could get out safely. I killed a couple of poisonous spiders and then was chased by this spider dude. It sounded like a skeleton though, and I realized it was actually a wither skeleton in disguise. It had an enchanted diamond sword and I was really hoping it would drop it. It sadly didn't, but I saw a chest, I broke it, and I got the heck out of there. On my way home, I came across a ruined portal, which would probably be the one I use to fix up and go to the nether when I'm ready. It was getting to be nighttime, so I placed down my bed and went to sleep. I finally checked what I got from the dojo chest. It was mostly junk, but I got some leggings, which would do for now. I opened up the map and saw the option to teleport, but it didn't work, so I set a marker and headed home. Oh look, a duck. I explored the south of the village and found some wildlife. Whoa, I didn't know chickens could swim. I found a bridge that led to nowhere and also found a zombie villager spawner. No thank you. I broke it and collected the XP as compensation for the PTSD they've caused me. Then I saw a bear, again, no thank you, and ended up at this giant mansion. I headed up to it before noticing it was surrounded by pillagers and thought today didn't seem like a good day to die again. By that point, it was already getting dark, so it was sleep time. I woke up, went swimming, almost drowned, but found my first piece of raw iron in an underwater cave. There was also some iron in this little water well, which was nice. I would need way more iron though, so I figured it was probably time to take out the iron golem. I was worried that some of the warrior villagers would get mad at me for attacking him, but luckily it was all good. Ooh, it also had a second bell that I missed. I'll take that. I went back home and crafted this hammer thinking it would help me mine multiple blocks at once, but soon came to figure out that it was not that type of hammer. I made a couple of other tools that I didn't have and darkness came rather quickly today. I cleansed the village of all its wheat so I can make some bread. I'm not sure why that was my go-to food choice, but here we are. I went to go see if I could find any iron on the surface and came across that strange noise again. Oh, it was a snail. That makes sense. I was also hearing villager noises coming from the wheat farm and noticed that a bunch of them were stuck in this hole. Well deserved, I think. I hit one of them for funsies and decided I'd try to go mining and find some more materials. I still didn't have any iron armor or tools. I mined down until I hit a cave and came across this weird green stuff which lit up when I walked on it, which was actually pretty cool. I hope it's not poisonous because I'm having way too much fun with this. I killed some mobs after almost being killed, and apparently baby zombies weren't enough because they've added baby skeletons. Great! I found some gold and at least the iron hammer could be of use. I also found a good supply of iron. This glowing bug was pretty cool. I would have killed it, but I wasn't sure what it would do, and I also had nowhere to run if it did get mad, so I had to leave it alone. I really didn't find anything else that was worth it, but the iron was a really good start. Back at the village, I saw a guard with an iron sword, so I asked him if I could borrow it. He said yes. Oh, so generous! He gave me his boots as well. I smelted all the iron and tools that I could need, and I suited up for the next day, where I would tackle the windmill. This morning, I saw a new villager profession, which was a beekeeper. I made my first trade, giving up dandelions for emeralds. On the way to the windmill, I saw this cursed pig, so I killed it, and then I saw this cute little robin, but I killed that too. Look, I'm curious to see what all these mobs drop. Once I got closer, I thought the best way to get inside was to just bridge up and over, so I made a huge dirt tower and saw a ton of pillagers and zombie villagers were trapped, meaning it was the perfect time to go inside and hopefully not be bothered by them. For just starting out, there was some pretty good loot in here. I got a ton of iron, emeralds, gold, and some more enchanted gear. As nighttime approached, I got really nervous as I saw more mobs down below, but I built my way down and got back to the village safely. The next morning, I went looking for leather as my inventory was always overflowing and I wanted to have more room for things. I knew you could make a backpack, but I wasn't exactly sure what I needed. I knew I probably needed leather though, so I started killing cows. But then I got really mad at myself when I realized I killed all of them in this area and made them totally extinct. I was trying to figure out how to get more leather. Don't horses drop leather? No, I can't kill horses, I'm not a monster. Oh no, it looks like we're experiencing some technical difficulties. Let me just, oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Oh, look at that, I ended up with more leather. Crazy how that happened. When I got back home, I searched for ages trying to find how to craft a backpack, but I couldn't see it anywhere on the list, so I gave up. I thought maybe it wasn't appearing because I didn't have enough leather, so I went back to the deer I saw earlier, but it looks like they didn't drop any. I started collecting dirt because I wanted to get back into that dojo and see if there was any better loot. It was filled with those wither skeletons, and this one actually dropped its diamond sword. It had sharpness too and was almost dead, but it was the first diamond thing I had, so I was thrilled. I started making my way through, but heard so many mobs it was terrifying. I found a Prot 4 book in this chest, and that was great, and some more goodies. I wasn't having much luck on this floor, so I thought on this day I would build my way up to the upper floors where I might find some better stuff. I was searching around this room when two of these wither skellies snuck up on me and I thought for sure I was going to die. I luckily got out, but that was a really close one. I then came across this huge chunk of obsidian and knew there was probably something inside, but after mining one piece with an iron pick for a while, I knew I was not going to get this thing broken anytime soon. I got my hands on my first enchantment table, and then once I finally reached the main center room, the loot was honestly quite disappointing. I didn't give up and thought for how difficult this place was to get through, there must be some goodies in here somewhere. I built up and accessed another floor, where again, didn't find anything too amazing. I finally decided I was not going to waste any more time on this place and headed home. I opened up the new book I found, then I decided I wanted to explore some more. I didn't know how far I planned to go, so I picked up the saddle I got earlier and went to get a horse. I wonder what happened to all the horses that were here earlier. They must have ran away. Weird. I managed to pick out the one that I wanted and we became best friends forever. Me and my new horse Bernie rode off into the sunset, almost died, then went to sleep. The next day, I left Bernie to go check out this small house. I knew they would stay close by because we are best friends. Wait, where are you going? It was a pretty ordinary house. Honestly so disappointed that Bernie tried to abandon me. We pulled up to this giant mushroom and it was filled with piglins. They seemed to be crossed over with mushrooms and their names were all written in some form of ancient language. I managed to kill most of them, destroy the spawner and loot the space, where I found my first diamonds. Happy with my diamonds, it was getting late, so we left to find a nice place to sleep. I forgot the mini-map in the top corner existed and the fields were really long and hard to navigate. Please forgive me. But I accidentally rode straight into lava and both Bernie and I sort of sadly burned. I was fortunate enough to have respawned, but Bernie will have to live on in our hearts. Okay, that's on him. I told him not to pick hardcore mode. I was very worried that because I died in lava, my stuff would be gone skis, but when I finally returned back to the spot, my gravestone was still visible within the lava. Thank goodness. I was seriously about to quit. I made my way by foot to these purple tents, which turned out to be filled with pillagers. I spent ages trying to get to the barrels and chests, but there were just so many of them. I found a goat horn, then headed out. I saw this little house in the distance and prayed it also wasn't filled with mobs, but when I got inside, it was a villager and a wandering trader, some diamonds, good loot, and even a diamond chest plate. There was so much stuff in storage that I even considered moving here, but slept on it and figured I'd keep going until I find a better place. I jumped in a boat for the first time as most of the distance I had traveled was actually accessible by water. I found a pirate ship and after seeing it up close, it was filled with more pillagers. I wanted to drop all my loot off and make sure I had some room in my inventory before I came back for this thing. I had to keep going back and forth because I was yet to find another waystone. Once I got my inventory emptied out, I trekked back to the pirate ship, dealt with a couple of pillagers, cleared it out, and again was met with some super subpar loot. I continued navigating the ocean and found a villager that looked to be stranded. I probably should have helped him, but surprise, I didn't. I'm sure he knows how to swim. I found another little structure floating on the water with another villager. This one actually had what looked to be a few buried treasure chests that contained similar loot in it, so I took that and ended the day on the water. I woke up and the nearby land was on fire. I swear, I had nothing to do with it. I explored this fisherman hut, killed a zombie fish and almost didn't notice, but luckily saw just in time before it despawned that it dropped what looked to be a blue soul star. I clicked on it, which accidentally threw it, and I guess it leads to some sort of boss. I wasn't exactly ready to be fighting any bosses, so I went home and finally figured out how to make a backpack. So embarrassing, but I didn't realize there was actually a search bar that literally told you exactly how to make it. I also saw the option to upgrade the backpack, which would increase its capacity, so I upgraded it as much as I could. Now that I had extra storage, I was ready to begin exploring again and found another one of those pillager camps. In the distance, I noticed a hot air balloon, which, without elytra, was going to be super hard to get to. I built my way up, and there was nothing good. There was literally nothing. I kept running and saw a village and also a giant coliseum. I wonder if this would be my first boss battle. I set the waystone as second village and then stole my third bell. After exploring the village a little bit, I took a look at the coliseum, and it was filled with skeletons. I also was approached by a baby creeper who ran way too fast for my liking. What is it with these baby mobs? I took out the skeletons, and when I reached the center, it spawned a giant phantom with a pretty decked out skeleton riding on top. I was doing some good damage on it, plus it was taking more by burning in the sun. I got sent levitating, and I thought everything was going to be fine. And then I died. Again. I'm actually pretty mad about this one. I was able to retrieve my things and was determined to kill this thing. I started trading in the hopes to get some arrows from Fletcher's, as I figured the only way to kill this thing was from afar, especially considering I was pretty underprepared. I found a snake, killed it, found a hermit crab, killed it, found a weird little dinosaur creature, killed it, and then it was nighttime. I found a giraffe, didn't kill it, and some termites, I think? And then I continued trading with a Fletcher. I got him to max level and realized this dude probably wasn't going to trade me arrows after all. Hey, at least I got experience. So I made a new Fletcher, and legit their first trade was arrows. I stocked up on them, then headed straight back to the Coliseum to see if I could take down this phantom. I kept shooting until the phantom eventually died and the skeleton fell off. It was pretty strong, but I kept at it, making sure I had plenty of cover, and finally killed it. It dropped 21 diamonds, which I was stoked about, because now I could finally upgrade my armor and tools. Before I did this, I wanted to keep exploring to see if there was some place I could call home. I found a squirrel and killed it, then found a seal and killed it, and then I saw what looks to be a mine shaft. I also saw a village up ahead, so figured I would come back to it after checking that out. Another bell. Check. In the distance, I also saw a giant glass spire-looking thing, which I would visit soon. I found a campsite, and it had so much coal blocks that obviously I had to steal. I was now a quarter way through 100 days played, and I thought it was a pretty slow start. I still didn't have a place to live, wasn't geared up, and hadn't explored too much. However, I was still determined to reach all my goals. I really wanted to check out all the new things this mod pack had to offer, so I went back down to the mineshaft, which was not an ordinary mineshaft. This one was extremely intimidating. It was a huge drop straight down, and I couldn't even see the bottom. I headed down very carefully, and there didn't actually look to be any mobs, but I still proceeded with caution. I found some silver, some Cairo marble shards, and a couple of mob spawners, even some diamond ore, before deciding it was time to head back up. Once I got to the glass spire, I couldn't see anything at first, until I saw in the center, hiding under the water, there was a barrel, and this is where I found my first enchanted golden apple. I was very excited. I kept heading on and found another savannah village not too far. Best part about it was I saw a large house that looked promising. It was really cute, already had some built-in storage, furniture, and residents, which I sadly would have to inform that their lease was up and they would need to be evicted. I was also saved by this mini iron golem, Pulvis. I decided that this would be my home, for now, and I started transporting all of my materials and loots that I collected so far. I also got an enchantment table set up and started organizing things. I begun to make the space a little bit more practical for what I needed it for. I also built a small pen out the front where I offered some nearby cows some candy and they irresponsibly followed me right into my trap. I then got myself in full diamond armor and then found another pillager camp because these things seem to be everywhere, but this time I looted most of the tents. Now that I had a storage set up, I figured I could start hoarding a little more items because who knows when I would need them. This is also a great way to get disorganized very quickly. I saw some different looking structures that I hadn't seen before nearby on the map, so I added a marker and headed over to it. These were colored terracotta towers and I could see spawners but wasn't sure what mob they contained yet. After getting closer, they spawned a hoglin with a wither skeleton on top. Quite a dangerous duo if I wasn't careful. I wasted way too many arrows trying to kill this thing, and up high there was skeletons that were shooting me with some sort of poisonous arrow. I got them mostly cleared out, broke some spawners, and could finally start having a better look around. I even got my first wither skull and found some mini blocks, which I am obsessed with. I saw a flamingo and killed it, and one of these days a mob is going to drop diamonds or something and this will all be worth it. Not me trying to justify it in some way. I found dirt with ore in it, but I might need a better tool. And then I came across this western style town. It was completely abandoned. I also found this cowboy hat and it was a vibe. I then saw a ghost, and I guess that makes sense why there's no villagers around. I did aggro it, which probably wasn't the best move considering I didn't know how much damage it would do, but it wasn't too bad and pretty much died in a couple of hits. I found a Mesa Desert Temple, I lit it up and went down in it. It looked like a regular temple, so I went straight in for the chest, and that's when I heard it. The TNT started hissing, and I guess the chest that I tried to open was trapped. That was close. Thank goodness I mined down, otherwise I would have been stuck. And this, no joke, made me skeptical of every other chest that I opened for the whole entire 100 days. I kept on exploring and found a statue, which did have a block of gold underneath. Up ahead there was another village where of course I stole the bell. In the village, I found some sort of copper golem shrine. I couldn't figure out how to activate them, but I really wish I could have taken them home. If someone knows if there's a way to make them come alive or something, then please let me know, because I really want to keep these guys. Underneath it, there was also another dungeon type thing filled with spiders, and I decided not to go in. I found a church and a burial site, got a bit more loot and some raw iron and copper ore. I then made my way into a jungle biome where I found my first actual pillager tower. It even had this cute little baby pillager inside. I then found what looked to be a pillager camp, except it was blue, and it was peaceful. Best part about it, they had a bell. Oh, and some sort of treasure map. I went home and woke up to a bunch of tumbleweed flying around, enchanted my first piece of armor, and wanted to go see if I could locate the treasure map that I had found. I travelled so far only to end up at a pillager camp that I passed earlier. I went to the X and it gave me another map. It's like I was on some type of scavenger hunt. This pillager was also not very happy that I stole their map. I found another one of those blue nether portals and not sure if there was some way to light it differently. Maybe it would lead me to a new biome or something. I wanted to explore more, but going by foot was getting tedious. So I used a saddle to make a new best friend. His name is Strand. Strand and I rode off into the sunset. Boy, this sounds familiar. We only got so far before I realized I had to abandon him again as there was too much water and he couldn't cross. I gave him a golden apple for his troubles, and then unfortunately, I had to leave stranded. I continued on my way, finding some vultures, and then saw a massive desert temple. I planned on going inside and checking it out, but after getting closer, I was struck with mining fatigue, meaning I couldn't just break my way in safely. Now, if this was similar to an ocean monument, I would probably need to kill some sort of boss in order to get rid of the curse. I scouted the perimeter and couldn't find an entrance, and it looked like the only way in was from the top, and I really didn't want to fight whatever was in there until I had full enchanted gear. I continued on my side quest of tracking down the map, and it brought me to an even bigger pirate ship. The ship also had pillagers guarding it, and there was a lot more of them than on the smaller ship. I carefully got myself in from below and spent the whole day looking for loot inside, as I felt that because it was on the treasure map it had to have something good, but if there was something in there, I wasn't able to find it. I think these maps might just be leading to some of the new structures if I'm being honest. Along the water I was met with another village, so I stole their valuables and their bell, and then I took the waystone and kept heading on. I came across another village shortly after, and I was stocking up on a good amount of waystones, which would be a fast way to eventually get around the nether and the end. I found this giant building filled with invisible skeletons. I spent a while trying to safely kill them all, and when I got upstairs to their hidden chest, it contained another map. Maybe these things were not as uncommon as I thought. I was so fixated on these maps, and I don't exactly know why, but I'm glad I kept following them, because on my way to the next one, I came across this witch hut. There was no witch in sight, but as I opened these barrels, I found blaze powder, meaning I could make Eyes of Ender without needing to kill blazers. It had so many potions, food, and other helpful ingredients. On my way, I then ran into an even larger pirate ship, this one a lot more eerie than the first two. Instead of pillagers, this one was stacked with skeleton pirates. Even the water was surrounded with spawners. This one took me so long to get inside, and these skellies were not easy to beat. Some of them had 80 health, and by the time I killed one, more would spawn, so I needed to find another way in to break the spawner. I decided to try my luck at going up and around the ship instead. Once I got to the back room, I almost cried because I spent so long trying to get in here, and the loot again was just so basic. I did get some gold and found some Eyes of Ender, which would come in handy, but it wasn't what I was expecting. I went on my way and found a little ruin with some loot, and then another witch hut, which I was so excited about because again, probably the best loot I found in the game so far. When I got to the white X, I was very confused because I didn't see any type of structure. I even climbed to the top of this mountain thinking that maybe the treasure was on top, but it was unsuccessful. I tried my best to find the exact spot, thinking maybe it worked the same as a buried treasure, but sadly nothing. If anyone knows if this actually has treasure or if it's just a scam, please let me know because I wasted a ton of time trying to find this thing. I did leave a marker, just in case I wanted to come back later and see if I was missing something. I teleported home and got my inventory emptied because I planned to enter the nether by day 50. Whoa, that was a good enchant. I got my nether portal all set up and I was ready to go. Now that I was back on my main story quest, our new mission was to enter the nether. I was so nervous, but I entered the nether, and at first, I didn't even notice the giant fortress that was directly in front of me, but I headed to a nearby warped forest and collected some pearls. This biome was so beautiful. I couldn't even have a moment of peace to enjoy it because the second that I was there, I started getting poisoned by something. They looked like wither skeletons, but in a lizard format. I caught them and they were actually an instant kill, which was good to know. I continued on and found a little strider spawner. I swear there's a spawner for everything in this mod pack. I then was able to locate a fortress, even though I passed one earlier, but for some reason completely didn't take any notice of it, so I started making my way down. Once I got inside, I started opening up chests and exploring, and I even found a bomb, which was rather concerning. I put that away quickly and thought I saw a blaze, but it was actually a blaze guardian, which apparently are way stronger than regular blazes. It sent an explosion at me, which hardly did any damage, so I thought I was safe. I went back to fight it. I had full diamond armor, shield, and it instant killed me. I felt like this was such a scam. I went back to the nether to grab my stuff, and this was the point that I realized the fortress was directly across from me. Massive facepalm moment. I still had to go all the way around the back to get there. I found what looked to be a room with a ruined portal in it, then luckily was able to get my stuff back. I got revenge on the blaze guardian that killed me, then killed some blazes for some extra blaze rods. When I got home, I wanted to loot the nearby windmill, so I built up the same as before and cleared it out. I still wasn't totally satisfied with my gear, so I headed off again in the search of bigger and better things. I found a mineshaft that also had a massive drop down, but it was in a different biome than the other one, so of course I wanted to give it a go. This one had some mobs, some urns, but nothing too exciting. I found another one of those spider caves in the middle of the ocean and thought I was in a good spot to check this one out. I didn't find any loot at all, and not sure if I was missing something, but what I did find was this little goblin trader, which yes, I did get scared and tried to hit, but luckily I missed. This little dude had some awesome trades, including ender pearls and an efficiency 6 shovel. I did buy a few pearls so I would have enough when searching for the stronghold, but that's pretty much all I could buy. Because I was on the water, I used a fishing rod that I found and caught my first fish. I couldn't really be bothered to continue fishing, and I spotted a jungle temple. I knew to be extremely cautious when looking at this one due to the Mesa temple almost blowing me up a little earlier. Just as I suspected, this entire thing was rigged with redstone and mobs. This room had some chests, but after inspection, those chests were trapped, and I would have been submerged in a warm lavary bath if I had tried to open it. I kept heading north and found a zombie villager's hut, an abandoned graveyard, and church. Under every grave there was loot, and I ended up overflowing with items again. I came across another spider cave. These things were popping up everywhere, and I seriously couldn't find anything in the last one, so I didn't even bother. Up ahead there was a deer. I walked right past it without causing any harm like a responsible human being. Wow, I'm really growing. Then I came face to face with a scorpion that was totally taunting me, so I went to face it and it ran away. I couldn't let him get away with all those intimidation tactics, so I needed to kill it. I found a mineshaft, kept going, another ghost town, kept going, and another one of those Badland towers. This one had a few more mini blocks that I was really excited to steal. And of course, I was super stoked to find another witch's hut because I now for sure had to have enough materials for ender eyes. This was really nice to be able to find them in the overworld. I wouldn't have actually had to go to the nether at all now to think of it. I still went to experience it, but overall, it saved me a lot of time without having to kill blazes, especially with all of those blaze guardians. Up ahead, I saw a new building that I hadn't seen before, but I got distracted when I saw a well. There were just so many particles, and I was curious as to what was down there. So I mined down safely, and it just seemed to be bedrock. This just seems super unusual. I don't know if there's some particular tool that I have to use to get through it or what. I'm probably missing something once again, but I had to move on. I then found a cute little fox, another coliseum, and a ruined portal. I was really hoping to find a village so I could use a waystone to teleport home, as I didn't want to waste any of the ones that I've collected, before realizing that waystones were actually craftable. The only item that I needed to craft them that I didn't have was obsidian, so on my way to find some, I saw a giant building. Multiple giant buildings. These things were crazy. Definitely the coolest generated structure I've seen in this mod pack so far. I made myself a little setup and obviously had to explore these things. Once I got closer, this place had pillagers shooting fireworks and I knew I had to be super careful. I managed to block most of the fireworks and started building my way up the side, only because going inside would be super risky. I kept being shot at but tried my best to keep blocking and bridging. I made my way up, took a bunch of damage, and then another ridiculous death. I was holding my shield, but still managed to be instant killed. The shield blocked the fireworks earlier, so I don't know. I once again was pretty mad about this one. Luckily, I had set my spawn nearby and retrieved my things. Once inside, it was much easier to look in every room because once the spawner was broken, no mobs would spawn. This loot was definitely worth it, and the rooftop had all the goodies. The rooftops didn't actually contain any mobs. More of the mobs were located inside the buildings, so I thought my best bet was to start bridging from rooftop to rooftop. I really didn't have that many issues with mobs, and this was for sure the play because I ended up with so much stuff. After clearing all the rooftops, I then decided to tackle the inside of the buildings. Seeing it on the map was pretty insane just how extensive this place was. I carefully broke every spawner and ended up with so much XP from doing this. This did take me a lot of time because I was being really careful. I did not want to die again. I wasn't exactly sure what this room was supposed to be, but I had some obsidian in the chest and I was very happy because this meant that I could finally craft a waystone. These pool tables and mini blocks were so cool, but due to limited inventory space, I only took my favorite number, 13. Just look at how cool all these blocks were. I wish I could steal them all. I was then approached by another goblin trader, but this time it was the end-themed goblin. I didn't really understand why he appeared considering I was still in the overworld, but maybe that's not how it works. He had a couple of things that really intrigued me, opals and an opal sword chest. I wasn't sure what you use them for, but for that price they must be pretty significant. Now that I had spent quite a good deal of time here, I decided that now that I had obsidian, I would craft a waystone and finally make my way home. I unloaded all of my loot, which by the way was completely overflowing, and made another backpack for additional storage to use until I could finally get my hands on a shulker box. I started getting prepared by getting all of my Eyes of Ender ready. I made a waystone and upgraded my armor due to having quite a bit of levels. I even traveled back to the second village I found and bought a bunch more arrows. I knew I would need a lot of them. I spent the rest of the day getting more emeralds and enchanting as much as I could. I was now ready for my new quest, find the stronghold. The base that I was living wasn't crazy far from my initial spawn, so I thought this would still bring me to the closest stronghold. Boy, was I wrong. As I got closer to one of these pillager buildings, I was hit with the darkness effect, which totally freaked me out, and I kept running to try to avoid it. I'm glad it wore off because a few seconds more and I would have fell to my death in this massive cave. I don't know what type of pillager gave me that effect, but it was pretty scary. I threw more pearls, and I swear every time I threw these things, it would just break. With the next pearl that I threw, I don't know if I broke it or lost it, but I was running out really quick. Another broken pearl. Not surprised. I kept pushing forward, found some goodies on my way, broke another pearl, and realized I was heading in the same direction I had already explored. I was wondering if I should have teleported to the Badlands I was at earlier, but figured I would be way too far out of the stronghold radius at that point. I guess I was under the impression that strongholds generated within 2,000 blocks of your spawn point for some reason. Yeah, that wasn't the case. And you know that I obviously couldn't help myself when I came across this lush cave-themed mineshaft, which I had to go down, even though the previous ones may have been a waste of time. I came across this cute little axolotl, and don't worry, I'm not gonna kill it. This mineshaft turned out to be way bigger than the rest, with so many different walkways. This chest I found was amazing, with 2 diamonds and another notch apple. It also had a bunch of little rooms attached with zombie villager spawners. I guess that's what happens to villagers when they don't see sunlight for a while. I had a sleepover down there in the mines before heading back up the next morning. Still following the direction of the Ender Eye, I found a sign which led 2 different ways. I assumed it would take me to generated structures of some sort, just like the maps did. One was on the way, so I went left. That's when I noticed the giant Badlands towers up ahead, and I knew I should have followed my gut and teleported to the Waystone, as it would have saved me 3 days of travel time. And not only that, the stronghold was still nowhere to be seen. I do have to say, the village this biome was in was really cool. The ground was all bright red and full of colour. It was here where I found my 10th bell. There was also another village only a few blocks away where I collected another and got to take a close look at this huge mushroom. I went up carefully, and all it really had was a skeleton spawner and more trash loot. When I made it to this beach biome, I found a giant tower, which I thought might be a lighthouse, and once I got closer, the advancement confirmed that it was in fact a lighthouse. I climbed all the way up, and after hoping it wasn't a trap, I pressed the button and held my breath. Thrilled to know it wasn't exploding, the lights turned on to lead the way. I also got an advancement for reaching these sunken ruins nearby that had some hidden loot I was actually quite surprised I found. I then jumped in a boat and had to sleep in the middle of the ocean that night as I didn't make it to land in time. I found a few more intriguing structures on the water, including this prismarine hole in the ground which had a spawner and a little loot. I couldn't figure out what spawner that it was, and I also couldn't see it spawning anything around me, so I grabbed the stuff and went on my way. After jumping on this fisherman's boat, I traded with him a little until he traded me these salmon blocks. I bought a bunch because they looked really cool, even though deep down I probably knew I wouldn't get to do anything with them. I was running very low on pearls, so I hoped that I would locate the stronghold soon. This church had a bell out the front, and even though it's not a village, I still want to add this bell to the count. I grabbed all the goodies and then grabbed the treasure chest from this fully on-land shipwreck. After looking at the map again, I had travelled thousands of blocks and was uncertain if I would even find the stronghold before day 100 because time was running out. Not that following a treasure map would help me with my time crunch, but I couldn't help myself and wanted to see if I could find the buried treasure. On my way, I found a mushroom shrine, another bell, and what looked to be a zombie dungeon. It definitely didn't seem safe, so I headed on and found another pillager camp. I panicked as I was exploring this thing because there was an explosion behind me, and I guess a villager had activated a trap inside as I saw some redstone laying about. I faced my least favorite mob, the Vex, got myself a totem and an illuminate shard? How do you say that? And I was also chased by a Ravager. After killing the Ravager and sorting my inventory, I noticed I had picked up a Ravager horn. It looked exactly like a goat horn, so I assumed it was going to make a cool noise. I was too curious to not try it out, but just as I did, oh no, I had just started a raid. I instantly panicked so hard and I wanted to bail, but after all the chaos I had already caused in this world, I decided I would do the right thing and protect this village from unintentionally almost bringing it to its doom. This raid was crazy with illusioners, even an isolager, which, note, I am very thankful did not end up winning the mob vote because that thing was terrifying. The battle continued long into the next day as I fought wave after wave. At least I was able to stock up on totems and emeralds. It lasted a really long time, but I finally defeated the raid and proudly accepted my title of Hero of the Village. I felt pretty good that at least 3 of the 20 villagers survived and I was fine to go on my way. I found another cool looking structure in the distance that I hadn't seen before, and it was nearby a village, so I took the bell and left a waystone, naming it Cool Structure so I could come back to it eventually. I kept on following the pearls and my legs were getting very tired from all this running. I really wish I had a horse so that, actually never mind, it's probably for the best. There was another tree on fire, and I know what you're thinking, but no, it wasn't me. I found some other new buildings along the way and successfully stole my 15th bell. I came across Satali Venus the Cleric, who sold some pretty interesting things, like these old brute greaves that were apparently stolen from the fallen Nether Kingdom. The enchants on it were basic, but I wondered if they did have some special power. Not that it really mattered because I was too poor to afford any of it, so I stole what I could and then threw another pearl. This one finally slightly changed direction, so I knew it had to be leading me somewhere, at least somewhat closer. I travelled by boat to keep making distance, where I gave this cute wolf a bone and now had a friend to accompany me on the rest of my journey. At another one of these friendly villager camps, I found a bell and another sign. As I headed on, located in this ghost town, there was a blue obsidian portal that was almost fully complete. It didn't take much to complete the portal and I lit it up with a flint and steel. It did look like a regular nether portal, but I was curious to know if there was something special about it. I left a waystone so I could come back and made another friend. My dogs and all the villagers kept running through this inconveniently placed cactus and kept taking damage. And of course we needed to collect the bell tax from this village. As I threw another pearl, this one changed direction again, so I had a feeling I was getting close. I threw a pearl, and then I threw another pearl and was able to pinpoint the middle of the stronghold. I was so thankful that I finally made it. As I should have been directly above it, I started mining my way straight down safely until I finally saw an opening. And this did not look like your average Minecraft stronghold, and to be honest, I was a little scared. From first glance, it kept the same essence of a stronghold with the stone brick everywhere, but this had so much more decoration, cool banners, and was obviously much more elaborate. I had a look around, started opening chests, until I opened this one and tried to not get myself exploded. You can see how much I started shaking after I opened that. And that only led me to be skeptical of every other chest/loot piece I picked up in this stronghold. Again, I forgot the minimap existed and I was running around for ages trying to find the portal room. And there it was, the portal, which had no pearls in it, by the way. So I placed down all the Eyes of Ender and activated the portal. I then placed down a waystone in this room so I could get back and forth, which I would definitely need to do before I fought the dragon. I was then approached by another goblin trader. I put this one in a boat so he couldn't run away. This is the first one that I've caught, so I'm not too sure about the mechanics of these things, not sure if they despawn after some time, similar to the Wandering Trader, but I kept him here anyway. I explored the rest of the stronghold, which was massive. It had all of these rooms. I then came across the library, which had a diamond block right at the top. I was pretty positive that this was going to be a trap, so I mined out all the blocks around it, and it actually turned out to be safe. Nice. I also found an undead miner in here, which was a zombie in a mining outfit, which was pretty cute. Then I used the waystone to teleport home and started gearing up for the final dragon fight. I started trading for some cooked chicken as an extra food source and began figuring out everything I would need for this to be successful. I then made a trip back to the second village to buy more arrows, you'll never know how many you need, buy some golden carrots, and then I started using my levels to finalize and combine enchants that would give me the best chance. I'm definitely the best at PvP with my bow, so I had to make sure that that was as enchanted as I could get it. I then teleported back to the stronghold and was ready to go to the end. When I went through the portal, I was immediately shocked at how far away this platform was from the main island. I also saw this crazy huge building that was filled with phantoms that I was worried would push me off, so I quickly started bridging my way over the void, hoping I had enough blocks. Once I made it all the way to the main island, I started making my way up and taking out the crystals. I did some damage to the dragon, but it took me a little while to get into my groove, and I'm very glad I upgraded for that infinity bow because this felt like it took ages. I was missing so many shots that there is no way I would have had enough arrows. Once all the crystals were taken out, I could then finally start doing some damage to the dragon. I kept at it and then successfully beat the dragon on day 86 of this world, which was one of my main goals, so I'm super stoked we completed one. I of course collected all the XP, flexed the dragon egg, and thought I'd better go explore the huge structure that kept throwing phantoms my way. I also noticed that the dragon kept healing from the crystals that were inside, so I figured it was best to destroy them. Between me and the building, there was this giant creature. I had no idea what it was, but I shot at it anyway, and it seemed peaceful. I think it's some sort of end whale. I got myself inside and collected the loot that I guess dropped when the explosion happened, and I knew that this place was going to have some really good stuff. This chest even contained netherite scraps. I found a spawner, but initially couldn't tell what it was, so I broke it, and I almost turned straight into an end crystal. Nope, not that way. I got up high and saw how many there actually were. This chest had more diamonds and even a notch apple. Those end crystals could have ended me real quick, so I'm lucky I saw them all. I was steadily making my way through when I turned and saw that I was being chased by a charged creeper. I bolted out, also getting shot and levitated by a guardian cross skelly before being backed into a corner. Last minute, I remembered I had a shield, and although it failed me last time, I didn't die. I parkoured through the bookshelves, killing more charged creepers, destroying their spawners, and blowing up end crystals. This was definitely a terrifying experience, but I just wanted to try and clear this thing. Just look at this loot! My inventory was getting filled up quick, so I placed a waystone to drop off all the goodies I found before carefully making my way through this place. I basically burrowed myself in the entire time, and it took me ages to get through it like this, but there was some super OP skeletons, so I didn't want to risk dying. There was a series of rooms with mini blocks and great loot. It took me another day, but I managed to destroy most of the spawners and cleared the place out. I grabbed everything and got up high to take a second to appreciate this place's beauty. Although dangerous, it contains some really good stuff that would help me tremendously. I once more used the waystone to head back home to safety and used all my levels to upgrade my armor again. I spent most of the day doing this, going back and forth, figuring out how much everything would cost before I made my decisions. When it came time to enchant my bow, I did cringe that I spent 20 levels to combine it, but it is my most used weapon, so I felt compelled. And even though none of my gear had mending yet, I did use the netherite scraps to turn my set to netherite, which would of course help increase the durability. I used the remainder of my netherite to upgrade my backpack, which increased its slots even more, and I thought this one was pretty swag. I headed into the blue obsidian portal, which sadly ended up being the regular nether, and I was immediately attacked by a ghast. I gave it a taste of its own medicine and then came across this nether city of some sort. I was really high above it and I did want to get down, so I thought using a boat would be my best chance. Holding my breath, I went for it, and I wasted too much time exploring this place. The design was really cool, but it had nothing, literally not a single chest. I did kind of look around the majority of it, as there were some cool blocks that I actually did want to take home with me, but that was about it. I then saw what looked to resemble a jungle temple, but it was made out of warped wood. I got down to it, and of course it was full of traps. This one definitely would have been death if I wasn't lucky enough to realize it was a trap quick enough. I didn't really get much out of this either, and it felt a little bit more dangerous than it needed to be. But I am glad I did get to explore another structure. I traveled back home and tried to figure out what I wanted to do next. Now that I had successfully beaten the Ender Dragon, I kind of figured that I was ready to potentially take on some bigger bosses. So I grabbed a couple of the soul stars that I found earlier and decided to follow them to see what they led to. This did help me discover my first snowy biome where I could actually not figure out how to get in this igloo. I did find a snowy village, I stole the bell of course, and apparently this creeper was not too happy about that. I went back and checked out this lighthouse that I found, mostly to grab some books from inside. Then I opened up my quest book and saw I had a bunch of unclaimed rewards. I realized you could see tasks, and this is where I discovered new dimensions and how to craft the portals for them. Kinda mad I only remembered to look in this book on day 95, but it's alright. I went on my way, running into this random creature before taking a tumble into some powdered snow. I panicked once again before realizing it was probably best to not be doing this at nighttime. I then walked straight into a skeleton camp where I stole some loot, and this is where I actually called off the search for the bosses. I didn't have many days left, and walking by foot was definitely not efficient. Since the dragon was beat, I figured I would quickly go back to the end dimension and start hunting for elytra. I went back to the main island and used one of the portals that opened up after the dragon died. Of course it was located directly over the void, so I did have to bridge out there and also made some little barriers so I didn't fall off. I attempted to throw a pearl through the portal and I was so certain that I missed and that I would end up in the void, but it did pull me through and I got to begin hunting. I spawned into a spooky shadow forest, but there was an end city literally in sight, which was amazing. I began making my way over to it and even came across this weird little portal thing. I had no idea how to actually activate it, but I'm pretty sure it takes you back to the overworld. The end city that was up ahead didn't seem to have a ship attached to it, however, it did have this blimp floating nearby. I wasn't sure if that would still count as a ship or if it would have elytra in it, but I definitely wanted to check that out. Before I went up to it, I did leave a waystone, set my spawn at home just in case I died, and I also replaced my water bucket. I didn't have a single slow falling potion or anything like that, so if I did get levitated, a water bucket would be my best bet. It took me a while, but I headed up the first tower, and when I finally reached the top, I found some pedestals with shulker boxes on them. I was so happy that I could now increase my storage. I continued to make my way through this city and even got my hands on a totem of void undying, which was cool. I also found some more amazing loot. Really glad none of this stuff was trapped. The shulkers also weren't too much of a bother because being inside meant that the levitation effects weren't too brutal. It was more annoying than anything. After looting the majority of the city, ending up with some pretty good stuff, I made my way out and started carefully bridging over to the balloon blimp. I took out some shulkers and before I knew it, there it was, held on a display, a perfect pair of wings. And it was already enchanted with unbreaking and mending. Safe to say, I stole pretty much everything in here and then traveled back home. I created a shulker monster full of everything I collected and I was so happy with this haul. Now that I had elytra, this was going to mean traveling would be way easier. I was now so close to the finale, and on day 99 I wanted to get portals to the new dimensions set up. Firstly, the Twilight Forest portal. This required a 2x2 water source surrounded by flowers. Then all I had to do was throw a diamond in the middle, and almost got struck by lightning, but there it is. The next was an Ether portal, where I had to make a quick detour back to the nether and collect some glowstone. This pretty much just had to be a regular nether portal, except it was made out of glowstone rather than obsidian. I always mess up the sizes of portals and accidentally made this bigger than it needed to be. I activated it with a water bucket and this one looked really cool. In my challenges, I also noticed that there was a strange ingot called unobtainium that you can get by throwing a netherite ingot into a nether portal. It sounded pretty strange, but I did it anyway, and I have no idea what you do with it, but we got one. As nightfall approached, I went to sleep, excited to wake up for the final day. I woke up to a cloudy and rainy day 100. A perfect day to stay cozy indoors and get some things sorted out. Whilst inside, I saw some weird storage redstone contraptions in the crafting inventory, and I figured if I was going exploring new dimensions, I'd want to have access to everything I needed. This was a wireless chest access, meaning as long as I had another one, I could access whatever was in this chest from anywhere in the world. Once nighttime hit, I went outside in a thunderstorm, which probably wasn't the smartest idea, but we didn't really have a choice. Now to count up all of the bells that we found. We ended up with a grand total of 19 bells, so we did miss one somewhere along the way in my count, which checks out because math. So if you guessed 19, congratulations. And that brings me to the end of 100 days in Better Minecraft. We were able to reach so many of our goals and I had a blast. However, this is only the beginning of this world. I still have new dimensions to visit, bosses to defeat, structures to explore, and so much more because this mod pack is gigantic. So if that is something that you are interested in seeing, please help support this video in all the ways because I would absolutely love to continue to 200 days. Thank you so much for watching my journey through Better Minecraft.